A very warm welcome to our esteemed dignitaries on the dais. May I request Sri Rao to kindly welcome our esteemed guests with floral bouquets. May I please request him to present a floral bouquet to Sri Bandyopadhyay. And also to Mr. Alan Floch. Thank you, Sri Rao. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that we will be presenting the much eagerly awaited the National Productivity Awards and the Data Visualization Challenge Awards later in the day, and also the proceedings of Day 2 will be webcasted live on www.asrtuevent.org. Do take out time today to take a tour of our international exhibition. And may I now, with these words, request Sri Anand Rao, Executive Director of ASRTU, to kindly make his welcome address.
A very good morning to all of you, distinguished dignitaries, Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, who will be the chief guest for today's function. This is a continuation of yesterday's function. Today we will have the panel discussion. It's only a formal opening where we will have the panel discussion. As already mentioned, we will have the honor of distributing the ASRTU Productivity Awards. Once more, I extend a very warm and a hearty welcome to Mr. Alan Floch. Thank you, Mr. Alan. You have been very nice to us, having come all the way, giving your fullest support for this 50 years of celebration of ASRTU. Again, I should place on record the support of our Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and the commitment, especially I'm sure we were supposed to have our President and the Secretary of Road Transport and Highways, Mr. Vijay Chibbarji. Due to preoccupied engagements and sudden meetings in the ministry, he was unable to make it today, but he has sent his warm wishes for today's program, our roundtable, and he may join us during the course of the Productivity Awards. However, we are likely to be joined by the Tourism Minister and later part of the day by the Honorable Petroleum Minister. And one of the reasons is that we are trying to push this award ceremony a bit later once all the other dignitaries are going to join us. Before losing much time, we thought we should go in for the panel discussion. Since already the panelists were there, our distinguished dignitaries were already here, it was time that we should go for the technical panel discussions, which was more important, and we should have more takeaways from this discussion. I once again extend a warm welcome to all the chief executives of our state road transport undertakings, our senior officers from the state road transport undertakings, our partners, sponsors, industries, exhibitors, and all those who have been involved in making this program for today. We also have amongst us the commissioners of transport, secretaries of various government departments. I extend a warm welcome to all of you. It is indeed a great pleasure for us to have you during the celebrations of the Golden Jubilee. I hope most of you were here with us yesterday. We had very meaningful discussions. The Joint Secretary of the Road Transport Ministry was just taking an update on what all happened yesterday. How do you find a solution for the problems that we have been facing? And on your behalf, I have assured him and the Ministry that there will be a takeaway of this program. We are going to make a white paper on what we have discussed, what are the problems we are facing, and also suggest how the solutions can come from these discussions. So this is what, on behalf of you, I have assured to the Ministry. I also look forward for a very strong and committed support also from the Ministry. You could also hear how much committed rather our Honorable Minister of Road Transport and Highways was here with all rhythm and enthusiasm and support he has given to us yesterday will really mean how much we are blessed to have the support of such great leaders when it comes to public road transport. Nevertheless, I assure on behalf of all of you that road transport sector will further grow and achieve greater heights with all your support and commitment. And that was the only very simple and a very first step towards really instituting the National Road Transport Excellence Awards. In fact, I also welcome all of you on behalf of my members and the fraternity of ASRTU for this function. This is a momentous occasion for this last 2 days, and today we have a couple of discussions centered on 2 subjects. We have 2 subjects for discussion today. The first will be on challenges and future roadmap for bus industry in India, the first panel discussion. The second discussion of the panel will be on the future of bus industry in India. So these 2 are very important to us. We discuss what are the problems, what are the prevailing issues, and how we could address this. So we thought it is more appropriate to have the representatives of the government, the representatives of the industry, have a little touch to the international experience. We have often traveled abroad to see how the support is forthcoming when it is from the commitment from the federal and the local governments internationally. So that is where we want Mr. Alan to throw some lights and advise us. This is where we look to you for advocacy issues when it comes to policy and public transport. These are some issues we will be discussing briefly. Then it comes to technology, then it comes to the local issues of the state governments, the operational issues, the technology issues, and how we can really address in the coming days. So briefly, these are some of the actionable points that we are going to take up today during the course of the panel discussions. I am very sure that with all your active participation, though we had a limitation of time yesterday, we could not take more questions, we could not have more interactions with you all. Today is a very good opportunity for all of you to kindly make your points very clear, be very precise, very crisp, tell what you want to convey, and seek what is the solution that you would like to look from this platform. This is where we want to really make this a very meaningful session. As mentioned yesterday by some of the speakers, that in fact Mr. Professor Dinesh Mohan, I have a great respect to him, is a great professor from the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. He was telling that conferences do happen, but what are the takeaways? There should be some solutions, there should be some learnings. Yes, I agree, I should accept, and we all commit by this, saying that this conference will not be like any other conference we sit here and go. So let us draw some roadmap. Today is the point where we are going to discuss on the subjects presented yesterday, and we'll have some takeaways of today, and I'm sure that we will be able to make inroads and great progress as a part of today's deliberations. I once again welcome Mr. Alan Floch, Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, all the senior officials of the road transport undertakings, the Ministry of Road Transport, and all other representatives from the industry and our partners who are present here to take active role in having participative discussions during the course of the panel discussions. So thereafter, as mentioned, we'll have the ASRTU Productivity Awards, and then we conclude probably as early as possible, either before pre-lunch or little spread over the lunch time. I would again humbly request all of you to kindly visit the exhibition stalls. We have made lot of efforts to bring in technology and exhibit lot of things that are really relevant to the truck transport sector. Please make it a point to visit this and ensure that you take the maximum benefit of this exposition today. I thank you once again for really making it possible to come here and participate in these discussions for the second. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Anand Rao, for the warm welcome address. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now invite Mr. Alan Floch, Secretary General of the International Association of Public Transport, and may I kindly request him to share his thoughts with us.
Good morning to everybody. Very happy to be here. I've kind of been diving for more than 36 hours now in the Indian environment, and this will force me, and with pleasure, to remain humble and modest whenever I come up with some, say, solutions or recommendation, because you know, you need to know, that's something that I learned crisscrossing the world, you need to know a lot about a country or a city before being allowed to say anything about what to do. Nevertheless, and with all modesty, I had received from my friend Prakash, the representative of UITP in India, a nice speech. But after those 3 days, I think I'm going to put it aside and just speak with my heart, and with a bit of experience that I had with you all, and the conversation I had with my colleagues, but also all the people that I had the occasion to meet. And you know, this 50th anniversary of ASRTU is a good occasion to do so. You might know, and that could be and should be an objective for those who are really in favor of sustainable transport, that some years ago UITP launched, and this is a global organization, so it was a very world type of commitment, the idea of doubling the market share of public transport by 2025. This may look at, in those days, it looked a bit like an over-ambitious goal, but in fact it was more a kind of a mobilization type of thing. It's like saying a call to all the players of the supply chain of public transport that they should mobilize themselves and try to go forward, because it was a very stable industry. It's still a very stable industry, and you know, from time to time to be a bit more awake was not that bad. And having a goal in 15 years from now, in those days it was in 2009, was a way to do so. We have made progress, not everywhere. There's been country where things stabilized, but there were a country where that really shows that it's working. And from that experience, I'm trying to make a summary of this in Milano when I present the intermediate status of this large strategy, but applying it to what I heard for the last two days. I think in my mind there are three, and not more than three. You know that the human brain, when you come up with a fourth idea, it's forgotten. So three would be good enough. And three, that's what you can bring back home. The first, if I may, is political will and leadership. There is no country or no city where progress has been made in going in the direction of livable cities and a sustainable transport option if there is no champion pushing for it. And so we have in the industry tried to find allies, political allies, who are ready to spend their life pushing for this, because they are convinced that in the general common interest it is worth promoting public transport as one of the major ingredients of a livable city. Political will is not just, you know, being a champion, it's also setting the right scene for public transport to become a reality. And when I mean public transport, I of course include biking, walking, and whatever new way of shared mobility, and this cannot be done in an integrated way if you don't have the right governing body to do so. My experience of India is not good enough, large enough to be allowed to say so, but from time to time I have the impression there has been a lot of initiatives, but they are not always very well coordinated, both on the national and on the state level, and that if you don't have some sort of a coordination place where you can have an overall and holistic view of mobility in the city, it will never work. So it's political will and setting the right instruments in terms of execution to decide and plan the mobility of the future. Second point, which I think is of the essence, is of course, and nobody would dispute this, is funding. We have been talking a lot about what we should be doing. The recipes are well known. I mean, we have plenty of very good traffic engineer, planning engineer that are able to decide together with the population which thing we should do. But if we don't have the money, it won't work. And I think, if I may say so, that public transport, if I may look back on the last 20 years, at the beginning public transport is very much an engineer stuff. It was an engineer world. And, you know, from time to time clients were viewed as an evil more than an asset. I think what happened in the last 10 years is suddenly the public transport operators and authorities that really made progress have discovered that the customer, the client, must be centric in their thinking, reflections and action. So from engineer, we tried to mix engineer together with marketeer. It wasn't easy. It is not yet achieved. But at least now in many operators' entity, the word client is no longer considered as an insult. But something we're missing a lot, and that's, I think, the next phase. We don't have good financing person. We are not very good at creating new source of revenue. I know that in India fares are most of the time blocked for reasons which are worth being investigated. We're waiting for subsidies that the states do not have. And I know many back in my countries, in European countries, they have the same feeling. They're just waiting for the public money. And since the fare are in the end of the politicians, we don't have money. And so if we don't have money, we can't invest. We can't operate. I think we need to build some skills in terms of financing. To be creative, to find new taxes, new way of putting money in the systems. Because the systems where there is no investment and no good maintenance and operation is a system that will have a major problem. And when you see how active is the market on mobility around the public transport company, if we are not taking our share, we're going to be overwhelmed and public transport will die. So my view is that let's be creative, trying to find the money together with the politicians, because generally with the decision making that you have to go this way, and try to have good people able to raise funds. So first was political leadership and institutional framework. Second, funding. And third, of course, you need to build the skills to make public transport attractive and self-supporting. And there are plenty of very good people around able to do so, but there's still a lot of work to do in this respect, because we want to attract people. We want to attract people on our buses and trains, and this is not done just by considering the customer as a evil to the worst, but it's also how to make this system so attractive. I saw, the air conditioning were at some point in time a way to transform public transport into something more, quote, sexy than it used to be. And obviously what we have been doing as ASRTU these 2 days is about how to upgrade the bus so that it is viewed as an attractive way of transportation and not as the transport for the poor, which it is and must be remain, but there's no reason why you're poor that you do not deserve a quality public transport. So in my opinion, these are the three stuff we have to work on. We have been listening about the problem that India is facing and the developing world is facing in terms of congestion, in terms of pollution, all this. We know it now. And I'm kind of tired of listening to this. It's time for action. And we should not, the problem is that we generally are spreading all our efforts in many, many, many areas. Let's just concentrate on the 3 points that we have here. It's good enough. And with this, I think most the developing world, but also the developed world, because we are facing the same problem in different circumstances, will arrive to do what? This 2015 is a very important year. May not be viewed from here, but some of you and some of the Indian community is very much committed to this. It's the year where the United Nations are going to decide, and this, as you know, it's the countries that are really voting this, on the Sustainable Development Goal for the next 10 years, and public transport is part of this. So that's on the UN side, if we go back to the states, and to the government, national government and state government, saying, you cannot forget public transport, you cannot forget urban development in such a way that the citizens are happy to live in the city. You remember the urbanization movement that will eventually and certainly arrive. So obviously there, sustainable goals are very important. Second, and I was planning to say that, maybe I dare saying so, we have this COP21, the Climate Change Convention, that will also be, I think this time will be a success. Kidding a bit about this, unfortunately that conference will take place in Paris. And Paris has still been tackling pollution and all this. I think we should have the climate change conference in Delhi or in Beijing, because the pollution and the congestion issue is very clear here. In Paris, it's a little bit theoretical, whereas here, some days, when you look at the sky, you say, oh, something is wrong. We should do it. We should agree that we should tackle the climate change. And I think, and that's a call for India, especially for those who represent a higher level of government, is that India has one-sixth of the population of the world, should be a very active partner in this climate change conference, because there is money to make there, to receive from the developed country, to try to tackle this. And obviously, the share of India in this problem is important and will be even more important in the future. So I think it's the time for the public transport and the sustainable transport community. It's an excellent time. I have the feeling in India things are changing. So I wish you could still go back home and remember the 3 points that I just mentioned. I think they are absolutely iconic in the fight that we're making together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alan Floch, for your extremely valuable solutions for successful, efficient and sustainable public transport systems. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite Shri Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, to kindly share his thoughts with us.
Respected Mr. Floch, Mr. Anand Rao, dear guests, I will keep myself brief because I will have to chair another panel discussion just after this. So maybe the topics may be repeated, but today is the second day, and yesterday you have heard very eloquent speakers, good suggestion coming on. I have been told that there was a good discussion which took place. And all of you who are present here, they already know the challenges which this sector faces, and some of the speakers have already shared what is the future course of action we are seeing. But from the government's perspective, we feel that in a country like India, we have to invest more time and money in planning of public transport right from the start of when the habitation planning starts, because many of our local bodies, most of them don't have transport planners in their organization. Permissions for habitation, that is the colonies coming up, the hamlets coming up, should start and should have inbuilt transport planning. Second thing is to make this transport financially viable, safe and affordable, punctual and approachable. These are something which may be quixotic in most of the places to think of, but for seeing a solution in this, affordability, we see that when the price of fuel were higher, the major part was going into the transport, as many analysis came. And if you see the tax collection as the percentage of GDP all over the world, India has around 70% of the taxes which form tax collection as a part of the total GDP output of the country. The developed nations have up to 45, some of them up to 52%. That means they are very heavily taxed. So in a country, that means in our country, the enterprises are taxed less than average. There is more excess cash generation, which, if we go by theory of marginal returns, is waiting for to be invested in a sector which uses the funds most optimally, and if it's the private sector, most profitably. So for the government as well as for the private sector, we have to make transport more attractive. We have to give a solution to the people to say that these are essentials and the return on investment are highest. As you know, those public transport which are backbones, the major routes in the urban transport, the major routes in the rural transport, which are very essential, and of course the risk will be higher, because the paying capacity of those people dependent on those will be less, have to be taken by the government. Again, the money being generated has to follow the principles of optimum or maximum marginal returns. And for the private sector, they can be the less risk generating but competitive, so that there is a balance between the prices as well as the stability. And these kind of models can come only when there are transport planners in various organizations, because transport, its requirement is a local issue. The community knows which are the major routes on which transport are required, what is the status, what is the deficit, because a country like India, even a two-wheeler is a major usage of transport. All our vehicles, 70% of the vehicles registered out of 176 million are two-wheelers. The accidents may be also high, but you see the people who have upgraded from a cycle to a two-wheeler, for whom the employment means is one of the major things, and they're self-employed, whether they're self-employed or they're employed in an enterprise. So two-wheelers have served the purpose as compared to the developed countries, where two-wheelers may not be the main method of transport. In some of the Southeastern Asian countries, there are two-wheeler taxis which are faster and maybe conveniently connected to major routes. So we have to think on both the financial viability and safety. So in the Road Transport and Safety Bill, a lot of deliberation took place with many stakeholders, with those who have made the best systems in the world, tried to implement them, and we have tried to remove the bottlenecks which are causing impediments into investment in the transport sector. We can see in the future, if you know, the Rakesh Mohan committee had submitted an excellent report which has forecasted what can be an estimated future of our transport industry. The growth is 6 times at least in goods transport and around 9 times in the passenger transport. So these are some figures which have to be tackled. We have to think now. We should have systems which will serve the people of this country better, and I think this kind of workshop will be very useful. The takeaways, the suggestions, the solutions which have been thrown will be used by government and the private sector in the future planning and the systems which will come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shri Bandipradai, for sharing your valuable thoughts with us, and we really look forward to hearing you in our next panel on the relevant theme, which will be immediately after this session. But before that, may I now request Shri Anand Rao to kindly present mementos to our esteemed guest. Firstly, to Shri Sanjay Bandipradai. And to Mr. Alan Floch. Thank you, Shri Rao.